Welcome back to another episode of the Anthony Murphy podcast. Today we are talking to Cheryl, the founder of Muse Meditation, and we are talking all things meditation, which has been something that I have placed extra importance on over the last couple of years, and it's an extremely important topic that hopefully more people can benefit from. So we talk to Cheryl about her journey with meditation. We talk about the different types of meditation. We talk about how to get started. A lot of people feel and struggle to get started when it comes to just mindfulness and meditation. So there's a lot of tips inside of this episode to help you get started and increase your performance and just feel a lot better about yourself overall. So very excited for this conversation. That episode is coming up next. All right. Well, we have already been kicking off with some great conversation, but we'll dive into the actual podcast now. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. Muse Meditation, very excited for this conversation. Thanks for coming into the podcast studio.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, I've known you for a little while now, so it's kind of cool to sit in a room and have a proper chat
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So
And we're very excited to be able to get back to recording podcasts in person as well.
Yes.
We obviously did quite a number of them last year, and it was all via Zoom, and obviously people still have to do that, but there's nothing quite like having a conversation in person.
And connection is everything at the moment, I think. I think it's coming up as a big thing for a lot of people. So
It's very true,
this
actually.
is amazing.
That's a whole conversation in itself, actually. And
Yes.
you know, actually ties quite nicely into what we're going to talk about today, which obviously is meditation.
Yes.
But before we do dive into that wonderful world, I'm sure if people haven't already picked it up, yourself, you weren't born in Australia. So let's, if you don't mind, let's jump back and learn a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be in Australia.
So I grew up in the southwest of England, a beautiful fishing town called Brixham in South Devon.
Nice.
And I decided to do a bit of backpacking in 2011 for initially 6 months. And the day I landed in Australia, I met my now husband, which is like...
The day you landed in the country?
Yeah,
Wow.
I got a job in a pub in Melbourne, and he was the bar manager, and I had to go directly to the pub to meet my friend. And he was there. It was like...
Well, that's a bit serendipitous, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And kind of never went home and found a home in Shepparton due to Michael finding work here. So he was starting a career in law and said, how do you fancy moving to the country? And
Cool.
I loved Melbourne at the time. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I feel about this. But now it's home. It's home for me. I've been here about 7 years and I feel like I've settled into the community and found my spot here. And
Excellent. It's been fantastic. I think, how did that whole, conversation sort of go down with family? Like, you've gone on a bit of a backpacking holiday, but then it was like, hey guys, I'm not actually coming back. How did all that sort of pan out?
Do you know what? Funny story about that. The last thing my dad said to me as he waved me off on the train was, whatever you do, don't meet an Aussie and don't not come home. And that's what happened. And it ended up in his wedding speech as well. Because, it eventuated, unfortunately. So, It's really tough being away from my parents in particular and my good friends because, we're still as close, even though the distance is there. Obviously, the beauty of technology keeps us connected. But, it was certainly a transition move into Shep and settling in, not knowing anybody and meeting people through my husband as well and through his networking. That's always quite nerve-wracking because you're trying to make a good impression for him as well. And it's not always like the natural connections that you want to make for yourself. So
there's so many dynamics, isn't there?
Completely, yeah. And you want it to be organic and meet people that are like-minded. That's taken a few years for me to do that.
Oh, you've done well. I think even the fact that because you came over on your own, even that in itself, like that's huge.
It's so funny, because that's at the time I was like, oh, this is nothing. Like I just was really fearless. I was I think 24 at the time. just wanted an adventure, a change of scenery. But now I look back and I think, actually, that was a massive thing to do, to uproot my whole life, to be with somebody and not know anybody. And the kind of emotions and mental health that came with that once I'd landed figuratively and literally, kind of kicked in as time went on. It was a really interesting journey, actually.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's all worked out very well. I remember the only kind of time in my life that I can relate to that, jumping on a plane and flying to another country and being on your own in a sense, especially to start out with, was when I actually went to England and Ireland with a couple of friends in years gone by. But I did actually take a week off by myself when I went to Ireland. And I think at the time I was early 20s, maybe 21, 22, and that was a big thing. But again, same, like you got that bit of a fearless aspect. It was pretty exciting. Booked a couple of tours and jumped on a bus and went around to Ireland for a week, which was absolutely fantastic. Didn't know anything, had no idea about the country at the time, obviously, but it all turned out very well, because as I found out very quickly at the start of the trip that about 70% of the people on the bus were all from Australia as well. So
you'll find them everywhere. Honestly,
it was so funny.
It is so funny, and there's an actual Australian community in London as well, and like all the big cities and everything. So you'll find that a lot. But I
it's
love
a global
that
world. Hey,
you've done that, and the unknown in the adventures as well is
very exciting.
So much beauty in that.
Very exciting. Awesome. So coming back to present day, what's happening now? Obviously, we've mentioned Muse Meditation, but bring us up to speed on what you're doing nowadays.
I initially started Muse February last year. I started group sessions and they went for 4 weeks, and then good old COVID kicked in. And it all went online very quickly. So I think we've had that chat before where you have to adapt and move things to make things work for a business. The great thing was we were coming into winter, so people were quite happy to stay at home in their pajamas and meditate on Zoom rather than leave their house and go somewhere else. So I went through, it was a really interesting first year of Muse, actually. It wasn't obviously how I envisaged it to pan out, but some great learning skills from that in all aspects. And as everybody does, you come to January and you've got these new goals and new intentions for the new year. And then my health and my husband's health took a turn for the worst at the beginning of the year. So actually I had to take a step back from Muse altogether for about 2 or 3 months, just to give that breathing space and prioritise my family. So now I'm just in the last month or so getting back into gear, which is so exciting, because I have all these ideas, all these plans and events and workshops, courses.
Nice.
Group meditation classes are coming back. I've already started one-on-one sessions. I've now found an incredible space to share with other women on Maud Street in Shepperton.
Very exciting.
So it's all happening very quickly, but it feels really aligned and really good and heart-led as well. And that's what I'm all about. So that's
love that.
That's where I'm at the moment.
Fantastic. Love that. Where did you discover meditation? When did it become a sort of a big thing in your life? Has it always sort of been a part of your life, or is it a more recent thing?
I would say it's always been a part of my life, but more dipping in and out in the earlier years. I kind of dabbled in it and played around with it, noticed the benefits, but was probably not self-aware enough, or prioritized other things as you do in your 20s to make it a massive part of my life. But in 2014, when I moved to Shepperton, I found a local group meditation class that I was attending on a weekly basis, met some like-minded people, really noticed a shift in how it was helping my mental health with the transition of the move of everything as well. And it just kind of grew my practice from there, and between those classes I was looking into different types of meditation, playing around with with my practice, doing some study behind it as well, which was just, it didn't feel like study. It was just, it felt like a hobby, and it was just lighting me up. And I think intuitively that's like you're on the right path.
Yeah, something you should dive into.
That. Yeah, definitely. And then probably 2017 and then 18, I really stepped into that space where I was like, actually, I can visualize myself doing this as a business, as a career. And that was really exciting. I used to meet my husband, Michael, on lunch breaks and tell him, and I was like, he just keeps dropping in that this is what I want to do. And he's like, just effing do it. Yeah. just get on with it. Like, just do it.
Love that support.
Yeah. Just like straight up support.
Yeah.
And you have things like imposter syndrome. Who am I to step forward and do this and hold space for other people? But because I built that self-awareness through meditation, I kind of was able to get out of my own way and go, let's just give it a go.
So
at the
good.
end of the day, if it just becomes a hobby and I help a few people, then that's going to be enough for me.
Like, there's so much we can unpack there as well, just in itself. But I've had this conversation with lots of people in the past couple of years, and even on previous podcasts as well, just talking about meditation becoming more of a popular concept for people. But when you really think about it, it should just it needs to be something that the majority of people, adopt and already have in their day-to-day life.
Correct.
And I feel like, if I look back at sort of my childhood and growing up, had a very, very great, great childhood, very, very, very fortunate, great family. But you sort of look back now when you know the things that you do about meditation, about self-awareness, about just, general health and well-being. There's definitely certain things when you go back 20, 30 years that just sort of weren't part of the conversation. It wasn't things that your parents knew or adopted. And they're really so important. And like, when I think of meditation, it's not, because a lot of people probably still have that woo-woo-y type of feeling around, the word meditation, all that sort of stuff. And it's just not for me, or, my head's always racing, I can't do it. But at the end of the day, it's just as important as, eating healthy, going to the gym and working out your body physically. Yeah. What do any of us really do when it comes to like our mind and our brain and giving ourselves that time and that space when the world is so full of stress and chaos and all that sort of stuff? Like,
absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, even this morning, my mind has been filled with information from social media or the news or whatever it is. But I think people forget that a massive anchor of meditation is your breath.
Yes.
And breathing. And we do that anyway. But to consciously breathe is such a beautiful entry point into meditation. And as you said before, there's this spiritual woo-woo taboo attached to meditation. It's not for me. My mind's too busy. Well, there's so many different ways that you can approach that and overcome that. And a big part of what I want to promote is the down-to-earth practical approach that anybody can do it, and you're right with the generational thing as well. It just wasn't spoken about unless you were a hippie doing hallucinogenic drugs in the 70s. That was just that was all that was, and that was a separate kind of cultural thing. But I do think it's becoming more popular. I've even had clients come to me and say that their doctor has actually suggested meditation for them as coping strategies, which really excited me when I heard that, because obviously holistic medicine and pharmaceutical medicine, very separate entities, and can sometimes have that confliction. So it's quite refreshing to see that it is slowly but surely coming into society a little bit more and more each year. And I mean, you're always going to get resistance, and meditation isn't going to be for everybody, just like other, healing modalities or or
Yeah.
Exercise for me is a big. I've got a massive resistance to exercise. Like
Yeah.
I'll walk my dog and I'll do some yoga, but like physical hard exercise, I'm like, not for me.
Yeah.
And that's a barrier I need to overcome, and a taboo or a mental block that I need to overcome, much like people do with meditation. So
100%. And on that, I feel like, as you said before, maybe it's not for me, but also finding a way that works for you as well.
Yeah.
Like literally the next sort of question I wanted to dive into is like different types of meditation. And as you said before, the the simplest form, just taking it back to just some simple breath work.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be transcendental visualization type meditation. It can just be as simple, and the benefits are just literally taking that time to stop,
Yes.
calm down,
Yep.
relax, and try and help your brain calm down a bit, so that your mind isn't racing. And you can do that in any which way that works for you.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't have to be a sitting in a group with 12 other people feeling self-conscious and awkward about things. It's just find a way to make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My favourite go-to meditation for beginners is the breathe and feel meditation, and it's simply connecting to your breath and how you're feeling in the present moment. And it doesn't have to be like a 45-minute meditation. You can do it standing in the shopping, the queue in the shopping...
Yeah, at the
supermarket.
Yeah.
Or you can do it at the traffic lights and just take a deep breath and go, how am I feeling? Identify the emotion that you're feeling. Having that self-awareness. And if you have that self-awareness, in itself has knock-on effects. It affects how you make decisions throughout your day as well. Like, how can I make myself feel just that little bit better? Or, what can I do to turn my day around?
Yeah.
A lot of people can wallow or sit with how they're feeling and not identify it. They're just kind of going, well, I'm just going to be self-destructive or self-sabotage, and meditation's a great way of just going, okay, how am I feeling in the present moment? How can I identify that? Well, I can name the emotion in my mind. And a type of meditation I'm working with at the moment, it's called Neti Neti.
Okay.
It's so exciting. It's basically identifying what you are not. So you are not the shirt that you're wearing, you're not the table that you're placing things on, but more relatively to humans is that you are not the emotion. So I always say to people that come and have one-on-one sessions with me, they'll come and they'll sit down and they'll say, I'm anxious.
Yep.
And I say, well, by saying I'm anxious, you're actually taking ownership of it rather than seeing it as a separate energy.
Yes.
So just like the tables, just like your shirt, it's a separate energy. So emotions are energy in motion. That's my favourite saying ever.
So good.
I love it. Rather than saying I'm anxious, you may choose to say I am experiencing anxiety. So anxiety is over here. It's a separate entity. It's coming into my energy field, so to speak. But it doesn't define me. Yeah. And because I've had such big emotions come up for myself the last few months, with health and everything like that, it's really easy to fall into that trap of going, well, I'm this, I'm that.
Yep.
And allowing it to define you and spiral and, take over. But Neti Neti is a beautiful practice where you can actually say, well, no, anxiety is over here, and you can do like a visualization with that, play around with that. Is it a color? Is it a shape? What does it look like to you? And it does not define me. Yeah. And sometimes just that self-awareness and that change of language that you use can have such a powerful effect on your mindset. It's
that voice in your head, isn't it? Like it's it's that constant, often subconscious conversation that your mind is having. And I feel like I've heard a very similar explanation. Perhaps it was like from Peter Crone or somebody like that. That the words that you are saying in your head, like I am depressed, right?
Yeah.
Or I am feeling like I am anxious.
Yeah.
It's that subconscious conversation that's happening in your head where you're attaching yourself to that feeling or that emotion.
It's an
where, as you
attachment.
said, it's not the case. It's I am feeling sad, unhappy, etc. and so forth. But you are not that thing.
That's
so
correct. Yeah.
then you can take the time to sit back and look at that and go, well, why is that the case?
Yeah.
What could I potentially do to help make myself feel better, or change the situation or something like that? And I think at a fundamental level, that's where so many of us kind of lack those skills, or have lacked those skills to kind of take that step back.
Yes.
And rather than just instantly reacting to the feelings or the situation or something, taking that time back. Again, it's not necessarily meditation, but it is just taking a couple of deep breaths. Like if anybody is feeling anxious or upset, just taking a few really solid deep breaths in and out can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Like just physiologically in your body, it will help you feel better.
And the more you start doing that as well, the more you practice, because it is, and I can't emphasize that enough to anybody who wants to get started into meditation. It is a practice. It's not an overnight fixer.
Exactly.
But the more you start to practice to do that as well, the more you'll find that you'll be a problem solver, not a problem seeker. So you'll take action steps to better yourself, or just simply just make your day just a little bit better. That one's worked wonders for me the last few months. It's got me to some good days again, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we all want more good days, and there's no time like the present that we find ourselves in, where there is certainly a lot more increased anxiety and stress and pressure, and disconnect from our family and our friends. So it's such an important time to be having that conversation and trying to give people that self-awareness and that skill set, as you mentioned, like it is a skill set, to be able to regulate our emotions and regulate ourselves, because there is a bit of a knowledge gap there. Even the humble Apple Watch nowadays has the little notification that'll pop up and tell you need to take a few deep breaths. And I find myself, whenever that happens, if you stop and just think about it for a second, I find that I'm breathing very, very rapidly and very, very shallow, and you're like, so if I just keep doing that, it's increasing my blood pressure. It is making me feel more anxious, etc., and so forth. So just being able to take control of your breath is going to help you feel so much better. Just really simple stuff.
And using your breath as your anchor as well, is your anchor back to your body. So as soon as you start connecting to your breathing, you're going to notice sensations in different parts of your body as well. Like I've already done it like 3 times during this chat already. Like, my posture's really bad. So sit up straight. Like you just become more aware of how to take care of yourself that little bit better. And another one, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know who has organised this. I believe it's Berry Street. They've put those stickers on the pavement in Maud Street Mall and around the lake that says, name 3 things you're grateful for. And if someone's walking like in a rush on their lunch break and they see that and they go, oh, there you go. There's 100%. Some stillness. I'm really grateful for my family and the fact that I have, legs to walk on my lunch break to go and do all these things that I need to do. And it's, the mindful practices like that are just... they're definitely a great place to start meditation anyway.
I think, obviously for this conversation, there are lots of different types of meditation as well, but I think it's a really good idea. We won't dive into those so much because I think it is important to keep it fairly simple. If anybody's listening in, watching in, and it's not something that they are super familiar with, I think what are just a couple of tips? We've mentioned breath work and all that sort of stuff, but even just breaking it down to a very simple couple of steps for people to get started, where would you kind of suggest, if it is breath work or it is meditation or just being mindful,
Yeah.
someone's got home, been a busy week at work, where could they start?
Good question. It's so subjective, isn't it? Because each listener is going to be very different in how they operate on a day-to-day basis. But I will always say to connect to your breath and your body awareness. Your body's always trying to communicate to you. And also it's all interlinked as well.
Yeah.
So just having that awareness. Do I need to have an intuitive stretch or a bit of movement to move some emotions or energy through my body? Whether that be actual physical exercise or like I'm big for just putting some tunes on and having a bit of a dance around my lounge and just like really shaking out any emotions that I might be feeling that are uncomfortable. There's some great apps that you can use as a starting point. Insight Timer is my favorite. For they do music, binaural beats, guided meditations.
Yep.
Just thousands of free meditations on there. And then if you upgrade, you can do like 10-day courses as well.
Yeah, nice.
That's a great starting point.
Yep.
Come and talk to me if you have any questions as well. Again, as I said, because it's so subjective, it's hard to
there's no one size fits all.
That's right. So if you are struggling, by all means reach out to me and we can talk about your circumstances and what I feel would help you. I think the biggest problem with anybody starting meditation is actually carving out the time to do it.
Yeah.
So firstly, identifying where in your day and in your week you're actually going to be able to gift yourself that time.
Yeah.
I ran a workshop on Sunday and I had 10 beautiful, beautiful people come to me, and the majority all came with the intention for more time for themselves.
Yeah.
More time to stop and to become less of the roles that they are in their lives and more of themselves, and finding out who they are as well. So a great starting meditation for me personally is a self-inquiry meditation. So you can do that either by just putting some music on in the background and just simply asking yourself, what do I need today? Where am I at today? Where am I operating from? And also, just off the back of that as well, because I rave about this book, but there's a book by Dr. David Hawkins, who created the Map of Consciousness. And if you haven't read it or if you haven't heard of it, I cannot recommend it enough. It's just about identifying your emotions, realizing that they're operating at a frequency as well.
Yep.
So again, just back to that awareness of where you're operating from on a day-to-day basis. That's just a way you can bring that into a self-inquiry meditation as well. And you can even ask yourself some big questions in self-inquiry meditation as well. Like use your intuition, connecting in with your heart space and what you feel you need to know for you and your life in the present moment as well is something that I highly recommend as well, because at the end of the day, meditation for me is a connection to self. And it's a way of, the benefits are endless, but a way of regulating emotions and just spending that time to make sure that I am being the best version of myself, because I hope that that's what everybody strives for.
And for myself personally, meditation's only kind of been on the radar and something that I've been taking more seriously probably for around the last 3 years. Kind of, prior to that, it really wasn't something that I ever really focused on or gave any time. But one of the things that's interested me the most is, again, it's more of a performance thing for me, right? Like, how can I maximize my performance on a day-to-day, whether it's my professional performance, whether it's my performance as a dad or a husband or whatever it might be.
Yes.
How can I be a high performer and increase my performance overall, right?
Yes.
Obviously, there's all the standard stuff, right? Like
Yep.
eating healthy, trying to get as much sleep as you can, which, for every parent out there knows that that's always a struggle. Going to the gym, getting physical exercise, all that sort of thing. But what else can be done? And I think that, where mindfulness, meditation really fits in is, and it's just always made complete sense to me, is when do we ever do anything to take care of our mind or our brain or our heart, right?
Yes.
Everything's always go, go, go. So for me, that's one of the key sort of drivers that kind of keeps me focused on being mindful and meditating, because if you take the time to give yourself space, if you take the time to let your brain relax, let your mind calm down, there is so many benefits to that, not just from an immediate, emotional and, physical kind of feeling, but also from a performance kind of aspect in
clarity,
focus. You're going to make better decisions.
Yep.
You're going to be less emotional. You're going to be more rational. All of those things that are going to help you perform at a higher level in all aspects of your life. So that's something that really, people can kind of, push the thought of mindfulness or meditation off to the side, saying, it's not for me, I don't need it. But if you're really honest with yourself and you sit down, whether it's in your career or whether it's playing sport or whatever it might be, anything that you're trying to do in life where you're trying to achieve something,
yes,
chances are that there's lots of things that you could be doing to improve your performance and increase your chances of being successful or getting those results. So that's something that's really driven me.
I think with that as well is because high performers and career-driven people have busy minds as well. Meditation allows you to identify the thought patterns that aren't helpful as well, that aren't going to help you with clarity or focus or high performance, and identifying those and just spending some time just letting them go and going, okay, well, that actually doesn't matter. So that doesn't matter. I can let that go. And now I can prioritize this and I can be a high performer off the back of that.
Exactly. It's almost like the old defrag for your computer, right? It's like it's like clearing out the massive jumble of files and rubbish that builds up over time and slows your computer down. It's exactly the same thing. It's the computer in your head that sometimes needs to have a break as well.
And off the back of that, with a bit of a computer link to it, is when I've cleared out the space, and I always say clearing out the space in my mind, what doesn't matter, what can I let go of, I always get intuitive, I call them downloads. So treat your mind as a computer, intuitive downloads, that's where my creativity comes in.
100%.
Ideas, that's where like the self-care prioritization comes in as well, for myself, for my husband, for anything within my life as well. So it's about that as much as anything else. So true.
And it's something that we can adapt at all ages as well. So my wife and I, we've as I said, over the past couple of years have made it more of a priority. And we're passing that on to our kids as well, right? Because obviously I'm aware of the fact that it wasn't something that was a part of my life growing up or my siblings' life growing up, and that's nothing against my parents. It just wasn't something that was it just wasn't a thing back then. And the whole self-regulation thing, which can start at any age, right? And helping our kids to regulate their emotions and help them understand the feelings that they're having, why they might be having them, how to deal with that, right? Like, every child gets upset, every child has tantrums, every child gets emotional, but being able to help them work through those emotions, but then also on top of that, giving them little practices and things to help them be more mindful, because same thing for us, like they've got busy minds as well, right? We've been very big on, again, the breathwork side of things, when they are upset, helping them to take a few deep breaths, meditation at night time as well before bed, right? It's like the story time scenario,
I'm
right?
literally combusting right now. This is so exciting.
And look,
I love it.
It doesn't happen every single night, right?
No,
but
no.
it's I think a very powerful thing to be able to, help the next generation, help our family, help our children to, be self-aware, regulate, and, they're just going to be able to have a better life because of it. So,
absolutely.
age is no factor in it.
No, definitely not. And I've got clients that have come to me that are in their 60s as well, and they're just like, I'm at this time where I'm just like, I've got no idea who I am. Like, I've just lived a life where I haven't identified anything. I've just have done as I've told, basically.
Life's happened,
Life's happened. Okay, now's the time for me and connecting with me. And just going back to you mentioning you bringing it into your life and with your children, like, for them to be able to identify an emotion and what that means at that age is going to have such a profound effect on them as adults.
Yeah.
And just having an understanding of what sadness or unhappiness or anxiety means, and then talking them through that, the life skills off the back of that is just magic.
Exactly.
So thank you for doing that.
That's the idea.
That's just amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Exactly. And I mean, it's one of those things where we all know that our kids are so busy and are often very emotional, and that's just part of being a kid. But at the same time, it's like what sort of lessons can we help to impart on them that they'll be able to use throughout their life, and that's definitely something that I would have found extremely helpful growing up. So
and for those who do see meditation as a woo-woo spiritual thing, seeing it as a life skill and listening to that as an example, for example, may be the thing that might make someone a bit more open-minded to it as well.
Yeah,
so.
100%. And there's lots of help out there as well. Like there's the meditation apps and stuff as well that are available. Often have programs for kids that are built into it as well, right?
Yes.
So and again, it's not so much about sitting there being completely still, not moving. It's a different type of thing where the meditation for kids is a lot more around. It's working them through a story.
Yes.
It's helping them to try and visualize things and just sort of calm down in a natural way.
Yeah.
There's lots of help out there as well for anybody who is interested in that.
Yeah, there's plenty of apps for all of like introduction to meditation, especially for your kids as well. I actually have a lady that I know in Shepperton. Her daughter has actually recorded meditations on Bloom, the Bloom app.
Yes.
And I listened to them just because and it was funny because I did a meditation. I was like, I'm feeling a little bit unaligned and a little bit in a funk.
Yep.
So I need to kind of shift myself up a little bit. How can I do that? And then I came across this kid's meditation, and I listened to it, and I reached out to Mel, and I was like, your daughter has just completely changed my day around, because her imagination and her ability to, she kept using the word magic. Nice. And how everything was magic, and just to have that inner child be evoked within myself as well. It's just amazing.
It's amazing. I think the only other thing I wanted to sort of touch on before we wrap up is probably one of the biggest issue that people often have is when they try meditation. Mm-hmm. The reason that it doesn't work is that they still have so much going on in their head.
Yes.
Right? And I think if we could just talk to that for a second, because it's probably one of the things that puts so many people off, is that they say, right, I'm going to be mindful, I'm going to meditate. They sit down, close their eyes, and their mind's going a million miles an hour still. That's not a problem.
No.
So let's kind of just talk through that for people who are thinking about getting started or having issues with that.
Firstly, my biggest piece of advice is just to release any expectation of how your meditation is going to go. I've meditated for years now, and sometimes I can have meditations like that.
Yeah.
Firstly, knowing just by breathing deeply and sitting in stillness, you're regulating your nervous system and you're reducing your heart rate. And there's all these gorgeous physiological benefits that you're doing. So the idea of having a quiet mind as a human being, I laugh at it, to be honest, because we have so many thoughts throughout the day. The way I would approach it, or as a tactic to try and overcome it, particularly as a beginner, is to find a grounding meditation. So just to become aware of your senses in the present moment. What can you touch? So feeling like your bum on the seat, or what like where your clothes are touching your skin, what you can hear, taste, smell, all those kind of things in the present moment. That in itself will slowly quieten the mind. And if you're prepared to, spend quite, a 10-15 minute amount of time to do that. Yeah. Because you'll notice there'll be such a shift in energy just by becoming aware of your body and your breath, your senses. They're there for a reason. Tap into them.
Try and concentrate on those, and you'll realise all of a sudden that, I haven't been thinking about work for a second, or I haven't been thinking about the kids for a second.
And also, our bodies do so much for us throughout the day without us even thinking about it. Just even sitting in gratitude with that, like going, okay, thank you, legs, for getting me from one place to another, or thank you, heart, for keeping me alive today. And
exactly.
Thank you, digestive system, for
that's right.
All these different
Lots
things we often for. So much to be thankful for. And gratitude in itself is a beautiful meditation practice. You can sit in gratitude or loving kindness, and you can direct that to a person or within, and that is a great tool to dissolve some uncomfortable emotions as well. So if you are experiencing anxiety or experiencing emotions that aren't feeling too good, sitting in gratitude for a few minutes is a good way of approaching it as well.
Love that. One piece of a little bit of a tip, and I think I got this from one of the apps as well, is that when you do have a busy mind, rather than trying to stop the thoughts, consider yourself like sitting by the side of a road and watching the cars go by, and use that analogy with all of the thoughts running around your head. You're still sitting still, and the thoughts running by are just like cars going past on the road. So it's not about like trying to stop all the traffic. It's just about being conscious of it and being aware of it. And over time, you'll be able to get yourself to a point where things aren't so busy, or like you said, you learn to concentrate on other things, other sensations that then, stop that busy mind. So hopefully that helps a few people.
Yes, the witnessing of thoughts is a powerful tool as well. So yes.
Love that. Cheryl, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about Muse Meditation?
Look, predominantly I'm on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I do have a Facebook page as well. A website is coming in August to help with bookings and things like that. But reach out through Instagram. On that page is my email address and my mobile phone if you have any questions or you want to book in.
And we'll have all the links in the show notes, of course, from the episode. So again, thank you so much for coming in, and hopefully the conversation helped a few people out there.
I hope so too. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. So that's it for another episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you love the show, the greatest form of feedback you can give is to leave a review. It helps the show grow, it helps more people find it, and I would really appreciate that. Head over to anthonygmurphy.com where you'll find all the show notes and links for today's episode. And if you just want to stay up to date with me and see what I'm up to, head over to Instagram, Anthony G. Murphy, and say g'day. And I will talk to you in the next episode.